Okay, welcome everyone. Today I've got Kev Field, one of the tri-coaching trainers with me. And Kev's going to talk to us about all you need to do is make sure learning takes place, that there's value for money, and that you keep everyone safe when you're taking your standards check or your part 3. But surely, Kev, you need to do more than them 3 things to be able to pass your part 3 or your standards check.
Well, hi everyone. Basically, I try to keep things simple. I think as an industry, we try and overcomplicate things. And what I'll do is I'll explain all 3 of those in a little bit more detail, so it makes it a little bit easier, because it sounds really simple when you say, just do these 3 things and that's it. You've covered everything. But we'll split them up a little bit to make it easier for people to understand what I mean when I say you've only got to do 3 things. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's great, Kev. Yeah. So, shall we start with make sure learning takes place then?
Okay. So if you're thinking about making sure learning takes place, learning comes from the student, the client, whoever's sitting next to you. And what you need to do is to just make sure that you set a goal, and the goal comes from the student. Make sure the goal's specific as well. So as an example, if you was doing roundabouts and Dave's goal was, I'd like to do roundabouts today, that subject is way too big. Try and make sure that you actually make the goal really specific. And it could be, I need to do my approach speed on approach to roundabouts. That is a more specific goal. And when you're talking about making sure learning takes place, also make sure about lesson planning. Make sure that your routes are suitable for the learner. Make sure that you're not taking them to a busy place that the learning can't take place, but also make sure that you're not taking them to somewhere that's really easy, that they've done before, that they could do straightforward, really. Make sure you're putting them into something called the comfort, out of the comfort zone and into a stretch zone.
Yeah.
So that's where you want to make sure that the learning takes place, in that stretch zone. Make sure as well that you're coaching them. I know you probably use the word client-centered learning, but if you're using coaching approaches and techniques, you're going to also be using something called reflection, self-reflection. And it's from there that you will make sure that learning takes place, because the reflection will come from the learner and you'll find out exactly how learning has taken place. And what it also means is, and this is the really good thing for the learner, that it's actually embedded and they can remember that after test as well. So it's not just about passing the test. It's making sure learning takes place so they can remember it again for future.
Yeah.
And that's really, when you say making sure learning takes place, that's literally it, really, in a nutshell. Keeping it really simple, making sure the goal's set, making sure it's specific, making sure that it's suitable routes where they can actually learn and develop, rather than staying in a comfort zone or panic zone where it's too much.
Yeah. So I've just made a few simple notes there. The first one being keep it simple, which I find a lot of ADIs and PDIs overcomplicate it. We were just speaking before we went live about the ADIs and PDIs that are doing manoeuvres, and they're overcomplicating it by getting the learner to do loads of different things instead of, well, just have a go. Yeah. I've had it before where I've just turned around to a learner, to an ADI, and said, how do you reverse into the bay? I'll just do it. So if you're just doing it, why can't they just do it? Keep it simple, like you say. The other good one that I thought was, you mentioned roundabouts, and I find that a lot of ADIs and PDIs do topics. You've just said make it specific, make that goal specific, more of a skill rather than the topic. And you mentioned the skill of slowing the car down, approach speed, I think it was. Actually specific goals, focusing on more on skills then. Reflection, again, if you're coaching, then you should be reflecting, or should be getting the students to reflect, as you like you've mentioned. That's where they will understand their learning. And the final one for me was embedded. That learning is embedded, and it will stick in there for longer, rather than I've got to just do this for the test. So that was a good a good thing there, Kev. I thought that was quite good. Hopefully, some of the ADIs and PDIs will look at that and be able to take that on. So the next one he said that they've got to do is give value for money. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Okay, so if you're thinking value for money, what you're also thinking is it's using your skills and your expertise, but also making sure that it's done in the way for the student. And they might actually want a demonstration, should I say. If the student's learning style is suited to having a demonstration, that makes sure that you can show your skills, but also in a way that's suited to them, so that they can learn a lot quicker. So that if I was to give you a book to read, Mick, and say, next lesson, what I want you to do is to read this book, and then you should be able to deal with this bay parking or whatever it is. Would that be suitable for you, or would you look at me as if I was from a different planet?
You know the answer to that, because we just talked about this before.
So that's where you're giving value for money. It's about using your teaching skills, matching your teaching skills to the learning skill or learning style of your student. But it's also as well about creating thinking drivers. So I could actually tell you how to do stuff, but at the same time, would you actually learn it? And the answer is, I might be able to do it, but will I remember it for next time? Whereas if I'm involving the student a lot more through my coaching questions, they're taking on board a lot more information in a way that suits them, so that they can remember to do it for next time, or they can reflect back so the situation improves, or do the same thing if it was really good. So that's where you're giving value for money.
Yeah. Again, just cover a couple of things there that you mentioned. Matching the learning style. For me, that's a big one. When you first started talking about value for money, the first thought that came into my head that PDIs talk about is the value for money. The cost and everything. It's nothing to do with that. It's how quickly, really, that you can that client can take on that information, and if they can take that information on quicker, but also retain that information, then it's going to be value for money. And like you say, by matching the learning style, then and teaching them in the style that is preferred to them, then they're gonna take that information on and learn quicker. And the other interesting one that you said was making thinking drivers. And the first thing I thought there was that's linking back into that embedded learning. By becoming a thinking driver and retaining that information, that's embedded. So you can see that both of these are actually linked together. So the final one then, you said, was to keep everyone safe.
Yeah. Basically what I mean by that is everyone. That includes you, your student, and everyone outside as well. And this is where people might refer to it as risk management. They're more probably used to that phrase. But if you just think of it as, I just need to keep everyone safe, But what I also need to do is the other two things that we've mentioned. So this is where, you know, you're starting to develop what I call setting up or making sure that everyone knows what responsibility they've got. And it might be, and this is where people in the past used to get a little bit confused with it, I'll do this, you do that, and everyone was happy with that. But let's think of this about keeping everyone safe. We have a responsibility and a duty of care. So we're not just going to let them smash your car up, because that is not keeping everyone safe. What we need to do is to make them more responsible for their own learning and make them responsible so they start giving an understanding of what actually driving is involved in. I will give them the opportunity to do as much as possible so they can achieve their goal, where I can manage everything else, but at the same time allowing them to potentially make a little mistake if it's safe.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where it comes back to planning your routes, making sure, you know, that it is suitable for the learner, so that if there was, I'll take you back into the olden days now, Mick. If you was doing a turn in the road,
yeah,
and if it was a new learner and they wanted to just have a go, what I would do is, okay, let's share the responsibility. What do you want to do and what do you want me to do? Well, I just want to do this and you do everything else to keep me safe. Okay. So I would choose an area that didn't have raised curbs, that would have lowered curbs, so they could just have a go. I would be looking around, doing the observations, making sure that they, you know, kept safe, making sure there was no one coming on the paths or anything like that, so they could just have a go to basically achieve their goal.
Yeah.
But then once we've done it, we can then step back and say, okay, tell me about that. What happened? What would you do differently? What was good? What wasn't so good? And that's where the coaching skills is. But I mean, just keep everyone safe, but involve the student in that as well.
Yeah. No, again, I totally agree with you there. And it's, you mentioned responsibility a couple of times. It is all about them taking that responsibility as well within their learning. Whereas in the past, they didn't take the responsibility. We would take that responsibility for a lot longer. Where now we're able to give them that responsibility a lot earlier on. And to know that was good. And it just we alluded to it before we start recording. But looking at these three things that you've come up with, making sure learning takes place, giving value for money, and keeping everyone safe. You can tie them all in to the three main headings on the SC1: lesson planning, risk management, and teaching and learning strategies. So if you look at it that way, you can see where the three of them will fit in. But no, that was interesting, Kevin. Hopefully, the PDIs on the group will take something from this, and no doubt they'll be firing back some questions at me. So, thanks for your time, Kev.
No problem at all, Mick.
It's been a pleasure as always, and I'll see you tomorrow on the Why Don't You Zoom.
Brilliant. Keep it simple, Mick. Keep it simple.
Exactly. That's all it is. Okay.
Cheers, Mick.
Thank you, Kev.